Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about giving you a tour of my garden, where it's at and what it looks like right now at this point in the season. We are just coming off of the Made to 4 long weekend, so today is Monday and I'm really excited to show you what I've done in my garden so far, what it looks like, what I have growing, and what I have left to do in my garden. I feel like the weather so far this year has not been cooperating. We've had a lot of really cool days, a lot of really cool nights, and I did end up losing a couple of plants last week due to a frost that happened and came in overnight. So I had to replace those plants, but not to worry, it's still early in the season, so if something like that happens to you, there's still time to plant new transplants. For the most part during the day, our temperatures have ranged anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees Celsius and as low as 5 degrees or cooler at night. This is really great temperatures for those cool weather crops. They're loving the temperatures right now, but when it comes to planting your warm season vegetables, they really do thrive off of temperatures a little bit warmer, and the nights have just been really cool, so it's been hit or miss. My plants have not been thriving, but they're in the ground for the most part with lots of space to plant more things. I'm really excited to show you around. Right here on my lower deck I have the deck garden, and this is all grow bags with various vegetables. And then heading up the stairs to the upper deck I have some garden boxes, and let's start here. I wanted to keep these garden boxes simple this year. Last year in the lower boxes I grew strawberries and they just didn't come back this season, and I didn't think it was worth replanting new strawberry plants in these boxes, as last season the squirrels got majority of my strawberries and I didn't get enough to consider it worth it to do strawberries again this year. So I replaced all the lower boxes with lettuce. We have mostly romaine lettuce, a little bit of Swiss chard, more romaine in that box, and then in these two upper boxes I have radishes of various types. So I have some longer radishes. These are ready to harvest. I've been waiting to harvest these, trying to push it just a few more days. I have some round radishes, so these are ready to harvest. I planted these just over a month ago. It took a little bit of time to get going because the temperatures were really cool, but they're ready. And then I have some more lettuce and a red leaf lettuce and a red romaine in this box here. The only other thing I have on my deck is this grow bag here. I move it around in the sun and it has some beets growing in there. So they're doing quite well. They're a little bit more slow to grow, but they're starting to get going now. Let's head downstairs. As we come down the stairs, I just decorated the stairs with some 1-gallon grow bags. They mostly have flowers in them, and then I sprinkled some herbs in there too with some rosemary. So that just adds a little pop of color here on the stairs and adds a place for me to add some herbs. Moving on to the lower deck, on my deck garden, we have some peas growing in these two larger bags here. I just took the netting off of this grow bag here. I felt like the peas were tall enough that the squirrels won't dig them up, but the seeds are just still popping up in this bag here, so I'm going to leave the netting on for now until they're established enough that I feel like the squirrels won't dig in there. I planted some Swiss chard in here and just sprinkled it in with some flowers just to add a pop of color. I have a tiny Tim tomato plant planted here, and the only surviving strawberry plant that I planted here last year. It survived, so I'm keeping it to see how it does. And then I have some red mustard lettuce here and some more romaine here. We have my second round of radishes here. Not as many seeds popped up, but that's okay. Some of them may have been stolen by the squirrels. And then we get into my broccoli. We have a mixture of broccoli and broccolini, some more broccoli, and some more lettuce and kale. The reason why majority of my lettuce, actually all of my lettuce, is on my deck is because the rabbits tend to munch on the lettuce when they're in my raised beds in the garden. They don't tend to jump up on the deck, so I keep all of my lettuces and kales and brassicas, which I also find they like to chew on. I keep them on my deck. And then we have some more herbs sprinkled in with some chives and some oregano. Moving on, you can see the rest of my raised beds are out on the grass, so let's move on to see what's in those. I would say that this raised bed here in front of the upper deck gets the most sunlight throughout the day. So I plant a lot of tomatoes here and heat-loving veggies. I'm going to be planting some peppers in front of these tomatoes. So we have a spot left here for a tomato. I haven't had a chance to plant all my tomatoes just yet. I've been getting them in over the last several days due to the temperatures. So we have a spot for a tomato there, but I've planted 2 tomatoes here. We have a sunrise bumblebee tomato and a subarctic plenty tomato. We have a sweetie tomato, which is a cherry tomato, and a beef hybrid. So a good variety of tomatoes right here. And then I sprinkled in some basil and some marigolds just to help with the critters. Basil goes really well together with tomato. And then, like I mentioned, I'm going to be planting majority of my peppers in front. Coming around the corner here, I have this small 2x4 raised bed. I just used some wood, built a frame box, filled it with soil, and I planted some cucumbers here this year. Last year I grew watermelons here. It worked out nicely. It gets a lot of sun. So this year I decided to try cucumbers. We have a variety of different cucumbers, smaller pickling cucumbers, munching cucumbers, and Marketmore cucumbers. So we will thin out if needed, and then hoping that they will just climb right up my deck. Then if I spin around, this is the side of the backyard, and I have my raised beds going down along the side. Again, I have some cucumbers planted here in the front. They'll trellis up this tomato cage, and I have 2 tomato plants planted in the back. Each section is 4 feet by 3 feet, so I have 2 beds side by side, which makes it 8 feet by 3 feet. These beds are 12 inches high. And actually, because I still have so many tomatoes left that need planting, I'm thinking of putting a stake right in the middle of these 2 tomatoes and adding another tomato. And I'll just prune a little bit more aggressively to accompany for the tighter spacing. And then again, I just have some marigolds sprinkled in the corner of the raised beds. My plan is to plant more cucumbers here, and a squash plant here. Moving on to the next raised bed, we have 1 single bed with bars in the middle for support. This is 8 feet by 3 feet. Again, we have 4 tomatoes in the back, but I'm thinking of planting another stake and another stake to add 2 more tomatoes to this bed in the back. We have marigolds in the front, and this is going to be cucumbers, a squash, and some peppers. The side of this backyard gets a lot of sun, and this bed gets a little bit of shade in the late afternoon. Moving on to this bed, this is a 3 foot by 6 foot raised bed, so just a little bit shorter with the posts in the middle for support. We have 4 tomatoes along the back. I won't be adding any tomatoes to this bed. We have an eggplant, a Black Beauty eggplant here in the corner. And then I have these wooden posts here. I'm getting ready to plant some bush beans. So I'm going to be adding some twine around the posts for support for the bush beans, and this is where the bush beans are going. This is the view from this side of the backyard. We have my deck over there, and my raised beds along the side. If I spin around in front of the shed, this is where some of my transplants are. This is some of the stuff that I need to get planted in the ground. I need to give some away. We have all of the sweet peppers here. I'm not planting any hot peppers this year, but we have 4 trays of sweet peppers. They're ready to go in the ground. And then we have a ton of tomatoes of various types, larger tomatoes and cherry tomatoes. And then the last place is the table on my deck, is where I have the rest of the transplants. So let's take a look at what I have growing over here. We have more tomatoes, 2 more trays of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes and larger tomatoes. We have a tray of bush beans. These are the beans that are going in the raised bed. We have some herbs, some dill, some cilantro, some parsley, some mint, and some oregano. We have some more tomatoes. I want to be able to grow and give away to family and friends. I also want to have backups in case something happens to one of my tomatoes, so I've planted more. We have some cucumbers going, some basil, and my squash, which will be ready to plant in just a week or two. And that's what my garden looks like today. I have a lot of work to do this week. Today is a big, heavy gardening day. Tomorrow is going to be a rainy day, so I want to get as many vegetables as I can in the ground today so that the rain can really do its thing and nourish the plants as much as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you found it helpful, if you learned something, and share it with a friend so that they can learn too. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends!